Hey there, welcome back to another video. And today we are talking about the rise of the new god. Now, I really like this title because it kind of parallels two things. So, if we start off, when we start off, you'd see that the story was actually kind of centered around Batman Who Laughs at the beginning. Reason being that he went from grass to grace, sort of. He was this normal human being that suddenly, well, not suddenly, over time built up his reputation, built up his powers, and built up his skills for one to be able to call him a new god. I mean, he's literally fighting Perpetua at the beginning of the comic, Perpetua being the mother of the multiverse, right? So that's some god level feat. And this title really captures what's going on there. And I really like what they did with this. Well, I beg to differ that this story isn't about him this time. This story is actually about the Chronicler. The Chronicler being a character we've never seen in DC Comics before and only appears in this comic. That is as of when this video is being released. This is the only appearance he has in DC Comics. I think he has two mentions, I can't remember, but this is the only place he appears. Just this book. You can't find him anywhere else. So he is okay. You know what? Let's just jump right into the story. There's a lot to unpack today. The story starts off with Metron, the Mobius chair, and the death of Metron. If you want to know more about the death of Metron, you can watch one of my other videos, the death of the new gods. I'll leave a link down in the description for you guys. You don't need to watch it now. You can watch it after this video. But all you just need to know for now is that Metron is dead, right? You don't really need to know how he died yet. You can find that out later, but if you already know that it's fine, you can keep watching. Then we switch off to this back and forth between Perpetua and the Batman Who Laughs, and that is when we are introduced to the Chronicler. Now, the reason Chronicler is here is to go and collect information about this multiverse, because that is his job. Well, actually, someone sent him here, and soon after he arrives, he notices that the multiverse is crumbling fast, and he only has a few moments to gather all the information he needs about this multiverse and leave, because he needs to do that before the multiverse is destroyed. He needs to get all of that information. Okay, so there was a key point I forgot to put in before. He was actually called here by someone. That was not the only reason he came here. He also came here because this multiverse was dying, right? But the main reason, or one of the reasons he came here, is because someone called him. And how did the person call him? The person was sending signals out into the multiverse. So he was also curious as to who called him. You get me? So I just needed you guys to know that before we move forward. So he gets into Hellscape, and for some reason, the Chronicler goes to meet the Joker, inquiring if he was the caller. After a very quick assessment of the Joker, he proceeds to give him the roasting of a lifetime. Roasting that would leave any normal person suicidal. He says, "You can't be the one who called me here. You're cosmologically insignificant, a mere nuisance to your world. And I wonder why they allow you live." And if you look at the next panel, it's kind of funny because the Joker actually looks like it's actually got to him. He looks hurt. And I mean, come on, I know the Joker is a villain, but I don't think he deserved that at all. Anyway, Chronicler ignores him and he finds Psycho Pirate, and instantly he knows that he has information about the multiverse. Now, keep this in mind. He can tell who you are just by looking at you, and he knows whatever you know. Well, after he makes you scream in agony and makes these light beams come out of your eyes. I mean, bro, this doesn't even look healthy. Psycho Pirate asks him who he is, and he goes straight to the point. No small talk, no how was your day. He doesn't even go for any small talk. But then he tells us something important, which is Psycho Pirate can, well, in case you don't know Psycho Pirate, he can recall whatever happened after all the crisis is, like after all the crisis events here, he still has his memories. He still knows that every iteration of the multiverse is different, right? For those of you who don't know, a crisis in DC is an event which is so massive and chaotic here that it causes a drastic change to the multiverse, which could involve everyone dying, of course, and then being recreated or some shit. No one ever remembers. That's the point. No one ever remembers that a crisis event happened. But for some reason, the Psycho Pirate is able to remember. Anyway, he also tells us that the book he carries around is the Codex Omniversa, which he uses to record the history of every multiverse he has been to, right? He collects information he needed, and once he got this information, he was actually amazed that there is no multiverse like this one. He goes as far as to call it remarkable, and now he even wants to get more knowledge on the multiverse. He is also not settled that such a great multiverse would meet its end this way, right? So what does he do? He goes to search for more knowledge. Oh, also note that Psycho Pirate has this mask here. This golden shit on his face is a mask. It's called the Medusa mask anyway. What he does is that it makes him control people's emotions, whatever emotion he wants. If he wants you to feel agony at that time, he'll make you feel agony. If he wants to make you feel happy, he'll make you feel happy. He can control your emotions, and with that he can actually kind of, have this influence over you. So he tries to work this shit on the Chronicler, but it fails to work. And Chronicler goes on to badmouth him, saying, "I'm incapable of feeling for the dead." And I like how Chronicler just says whatever he thinks without any rationality or empathy. And this actually kind of make me I don't know. It kind of makes me wonder, is this how higher life forms would actually view us as humans? Is this how, well, you guys as humans, right? I'm a Martian, but is this how higher level beings would look at lesser beings and be like? Anyway, he teleports out of there and he is met by a bunch of droids, which he easily whisks away by waving his hand. He then demands that the owner of the robot should come out, and it is revealed that he's none other than Vale Dox, the son of Brainiac. He also reveals that he was the one sending the signals to the Chronicler. What I said earlier, there was someone sending signals to him, right? So this was the guy that was sending the son of Brainiac. So I think I'll just keep calling him Brainiac Jr. for the rest of this video. He then reveals that, so after he revealed that he was the one sending the signals, he tries to bargain with Chronicler, telling him that he will give him all the knowledge in his father's spaceship for an all-expense paid trip to leave the multiverse, while Chronicler just takes a jab at him, saying he has no authority to make deals with the dead. Then proceeds to do the usual laser eye mind reading shit. I don't know. What is actually interesting here is that he says, "I am not authorized," implying there is power above his, which we will get to understand very shortly. So stick around because it gets very interesting, trust me. After he sucks Brainiac Jr. dry of information, he gets confused because he understands the full scope of what has been happening in the DC multiverse. He understands that there is always a constant feud between good and evil, heroes and villains. But what gets him worked up is, with all of this power, with all the energy everyone possessed, the multiverse is being destroyed. While he's lamenting, Brainiac Jr., tries to capture him using some energy net shit, I don't know, and tells him to stop being a bitch. Essentially, that's what he says. He shouldn't be talking like this since he hasn't actually lived here. He also goes on to say that there are surely places that are better than this, and he wants to get out of the multiverse. And Chronicler, with a sad look on his face, tells him, do you truly want to know what lies beyond here? And he then proceeds to open the Codex Omniversa, the book I said before that records the history of multiverses. And he shows Brainiac Jr. just a fraction of what is out there, and he is completely bamboozled. He's disoriented by what he sees. Chronicler then tells him, "You don't cherish what you have." He easily disperses the energy barrier that was placed around him earlier and leaves to search for more knowledge. He just vaults out of there. So when he leaves, he goes to watch this Perpetua's fight, and there's this awesome dialogue we get saying he wants to have hope, he wants to have faith for this multiverse. Then he makes a decision and then says something interesting again. He says, "I don't think my superiors will sanction my actions." He also says, "I need clarity from someone who has seen the universe how I see it, from the point of view of an observer." Then he proceeds to pick up a skeleton from the ground and he brings Metron back from the dead. This was so epic because all the new gods at this point were dead. Like all the original new gods anyway. They were all dead. They were all gone. If you want to know how they died, watch my previous video, Death of the New Gods. I'll leave a link in the description. It's pretty interesting if you ask me. But it just goes to show how powerful this guy is. This is a new god, right? If you understand anything about cosmological scaling in DC, these guys are far beyond the likes of Superman, Green Lantern and all those guys. Metron is pound for pound what Darkseid is, right? He's essentially the same kind of being Darkseid is. Darkseid being a new god, he's also a new god. So I know Darkseid is more powerful, but they are somewhat of the same class. You feel me? So for Chronicler to be able to do this, it's just really powerful. It just goes to show how powerful this guy is. And he does it's not as if he breaks a sweat while doing it. He just does it like it's nothing. Just picks up the skull from the ground and brings him back to life. So he does the usual introducing himself thing. He explains what is happening in the multiverse since, he's been dead all this time, so at least he needs to fill him in. And here we understand his confusion when he says, millennia after millennia, he completed his function. He has seen great multiverses with extraordinary beings, but never on this scale. Like I said, this multiverse rather, actually piqued his attention. He then continues to say, most of the stories he has put down in his book speaks of multiverses that reach a natural conclusion after a decay into entropy. But this multiverse is being ripped apart by nightmares instead of reaching a natural conclusion. Metron, he says, help me understand. Now, what we need to understand is that Metron, just like the Chronicler, was an observer. The only difference is that he interfered at some point in time when he saw things like this happen, right? During Death of the New Gods, during different periods in time, he actually interfered in the affairs that were happening. Or when Orion fought Darkseid in Jack Kirby's Fourth World, when Orion fought Darkseid for the anti-life equation or something, I can't remember why they were fighting. Metron kind of interfered instead of just observing, instead of just completing what he was made for, which is to just watch the multiverse, gather knowledge and all of that. And he went as far as to call all of this, interference a betrayal of his function. He also explains a bit about the Chronicler, saying he is from the source of creation, that fuels all things. You are above me, he says, above me on several rungs on the cosmological ladder, a being of the universe, not the multiverse, and yet the source is above you. This explanation tells us that the Chronicler is far beyond every single being in the DC multiverse, because he's above the multiverse and he's a being of the universe, tasked by the source to perform a function. And I find this really cool because, if I'm being honest, but let's get back to the story. Metron continues to explain that the multiverse will never truly die because of the being who came here, which is Chronicler, and this being then believes in their multiverse. He kind of, earlier he said he wants to have faith, which Metron actually helps him to achieve. Later on, you just calm down. He has faith in this multiverse. So what Metron is explaining here is that because humans believe in gods, the gods exist, and because the gods believe in the source exists, right? So as long as there is someone who believes that this multiverse is a thing, then it will never truly die. That is the explanation Metron is giving us here. And then to conclude it all, he then shows Chronicler the story of creation from start to finish. And the story concludes by saying he believes in this universe and its characters. With that belief, they become eternal. And with all that said, we have brought this video to its natural conclusion. But this channel will live on as long as you, the Cosmic Observer, smash the like button and the subscribe button. And once again, thank you. Thank you for watching.